You want me to tell you how much we used to pay for rent? $425. Let me tell you now about the experience I have. Look, young, 18, pretty 18-year-old coming in the area, so you don't know what happened, don't it? Hands full of fat. One night I was sleeping, and while I was asleep, um, we had those metal louver windows, and while I was sleeping, I heard, you know, rattling at the window. I was in deep sleep. It was 12 o'clock as I got up and looked at the time. Welcome back to another story time. It's really nice to have you with me today. This story that I'll be telling today is basically just a follow up to the last story that I told, how I became, or how I accidentally became a teacher. And I am just basically following up and where I left off. I want to talk to you about the interview process and moving out on my own. So, as I told you in my last story, that the principal of a school, he overheard me talking to a young man. Everybody's asking me about this young man that I started talking about, and he told me I sounded like a teacher, and he offered me a job as a teacher. So I got I got the offer for the job, okay? And after I got the offer, I was told where and when to meet with the principal for an interview. I remember the time, but I didn't write down the name of the place. Of course, he said I was to come to Ty Dixon and I was to be there for the interview at 11 o'clock. So I took those basic information. He gave me direction as to how I would get from my home to the school. However, I did not write down all the information. At that time, telephone was not so prevalent, and so I did not ask him for a number or how I could contact him. I didn't know how to contact him after we met there and then. So I basically had to rely on the T word and the direction that he gave me. So now, what happened is the day of the interview came and I decided to go. And of course, I went alone. Yeah, I went alone to a place that I don't know in a different parish that I've never been to before. I think it was a gentleman that I asked about Tylington, and he said, and I told him where I was going to a school. There's a school there, and he was like, he doesn't know of anywhere in that location, in that locality, that location that is by that name. The only place he knows is Ty Dixon. It still didn't ring a bell because I mean it's not a name or a place that I was familiar with. So when he said Ty Dixon, basically I just said, okay, let me try that then because probably I had missed the name of the place. So I asked for direction to get to Ty Dixon, and he pretty much said, right where you are is where you would stay. The taxi would come right here. Now, let me tell you something, you see. I'm going to tell you something. See, in the 90s, no taxi more than so, no, dep on the road. There were few limited transportation on that road. There was only Jigs, Speedy, and another gentleman where once you take film taxi, you're guaranteed to be left on the road. I never see a man could have broke down so. And at that time, taxis and vehicles used to break down so often, it's sad. I was there waiting for hours. Nothing was going in that direction. And as I said before, it was raining. It was raining real hard. When I got to the location, of course, we wet. And, I guess the principal had some sort of sympathy on me knowing that the route is not one that really has much transportation, but he respected and appreciated the fact that I was willing to brave the bad weather, you know, to come do the interview. So he wasn't so harsh on me at the interview, just asked me a few questions and, basically had me sign up some documentations, and that was it. But honestly, that was one trick to an interview. When I got there for the interview, it was supposed to be 11, and to be honest, I probably got there about 2 o'clock because it was raining real bad and there was no transportation. So I was pretty much very exhausted by the time I got to him. So I'm happy that he didn't bother to do any interview. So I got the job, and he said he offered me the teacher's cottage, and of course, he gave me, you know, the basic necessities that are needed for living. And I was supposed to pay. You want me to tell you how much we used to pay for rent? $425. So I got a room and access to a living room, living and dining, a kitchen and a bathroom, and a veranda, and all of that I got for $425. Well, let me tell you something, $425 the time, they are a whole heap of money. But I mean, it was still low income, for rent. So it was it was it was okay, and the place was nice and modern and clean, so I didn't mind living there. There was just one thing that I wasn't used to. There wasn't piped water. It was a tank that we actually access water from, and where I'm living or where I came from, I'm not used to tanks in that area. We have always had piped water. Okay, so fast track from the interview to me living on my own. You know how old I was? Hey, no one calculate me age, not true. No man. Anyway, I'm never one of those persons who are afraid to talk my age. So I was 18 years old when I went there to work. I just turned 18, and I was going to live on my own. Was I afraid? Was I nervous in any way? Hell no. I really wanted to go on my own, so much so that um, I would save money, and each time I go on the road, I would buy a plate or a cup. I don't know, nobody didn't tell me to do that. I would do it. And I remember I would store them in a box under my bed. I remember one time my sister, she went under there and saw them. At that time, a lot of plastics were what people use, and those were what were cheap at the time, that what you could afford. So I remember one time my sister went under the bed and saw it and took up the container and said, "Boy, my sister, you're investing in a plastic though." So, well, I wasn't deterred any at all because I was already determined to go live on my own. So I didn't care what nobody think. I just really wanted to go on my own. Yeah. So at 18, I went on my own. I tell you something, living on my own was quite interesting. Was one whole heap of drama, and I'm going to share two of those instances with you. So one has to do with food, and one has to do with community members, right? So, as it relates to food, going on your own for the very first time, oh, I forget, me have to tell you three things because this is something I can't make it pass. When I was going there, my parents didn't come to see where I was going to live. Strangely, I don't even remember. It's so long ago, but um, I don't remember them coming to see where I lived, but where I was going to live. But my dad did charter a bus to take up my few little boxes because all I had were boxes with my clothes, clothes and shoes, and probably, as I said, the little plastics that I had invested in. And that was about it. I didn't have any furniture or anything. I remember my mom giving me a igloo so I could buy ice to put in it. We got a stove from the principal of the school. So there wasn't anything much that I could take more than my boxes with my clothes and my shoes and a few little utensils, a iron, and I didn't get an iron board either until my first paycheck, which was 3 months after I started working. So that is the drama. I didn't get paid until 3 months after I started working. And I remember that at that time I was working like $4,000 per month, right? So, if I paid $400, it's 10% of my salary that I was paying for rent, right? Because I told you I was paying $400. Anyway, so now this gentleman that was taking me, when he got in close proximity to where the school was, you had to take a deep turn to go on a lower road. So you would come off one road to another, but it involved a deep turn, and then you got on the other road. Well, let me tell you something, you see. There wasn't any wall. There was no wall, no retaining wall that was in front of the road from the one that we're turning on to the next one. So what do you think happened? When the bus turned around there, let me tell you something. When the bus turned to go on the other road, and I realized that there was no wall there, it would appear as if it's a precipice. So what happened is that I was in the front, and here was the man going over a precipice. Let me tell you something, you see. I opened that door and jump out. I'm not exaggerating. I opened the door and jumped out of the vehicle. Leave it swinging. And the driver alone I go over there, no me and him. The gentleman stopped and said to me, "What happened?" I said, "But I thought you were going over the precipice." So he said to me, "Then if me not go over, so you'd have left me alone in a vehicle?" Hell yes. Me and you now go over there. So no, it was scary. I'm laughing now, but I was so frightened. You're in that vehicle and it appears I, and you're turning from one road to another, and immediately in front of you is a precipice, right? I mean, seriously, you now go over that. You go jump out. Me literally jump out and drop a ground. Cause me prefer broke a bone now go over there. So that was that. So we finally settled in and cleaned the place, and I mean live in my boxes. And so as I told you, it took 4 months before 3 months before I got my first salary. And I started working the 1st of September 1994, and October, November, I had not gotten any salary until school closed the early December, and I got paid, right? So those were some very rough months, and the fact that you're working, you're not necessarily inclined to go home too often because you're now living on your own. You're working and you're trying to be responsible and trying to settle down at the same time. So for the first 2 weeks that I was home, or I just moved, I went back home. But after that, I didn't travel so often because I had to take so many taxis. I'd have to take a taxi from Ty Dixon to Moneague, one from Moneague to Bogwalk, or if I want to take a different route, I could go to Linstead, and from Linstead to home, and that was a lot of money. I didn't have that kind of money, so I didn't go home so often. All right, so let me tell you now about the experience I have. Young, 18, pretty 18-year-old coming in the area, so you don't know what happened, don't it? Yeah, man. Hands full of fat. So the men in the community all want to feel say, yeah, one new girl in the community and them want the girl. One guy him come and tell me straight up say he my area leader. And if me I go live here any at all, me have to be a woman. Yeah? Him no know me. Fast track. One night I was sleeping and while I was asleep, um, we had those metal louver windows. And while I was sleeping, I heard, you know, rattling at the window. I was in deep sleep. It was 12 o'clock as I got up and looked at the time. And I turned the light on. Before I turned the light on, there was a male at the window whispering to me. I can't tell him that whisper. I don't want to tell you what he was whispering. I won't repeat it. But you know something? Let me tell you something. I get dramatic. You see, afraid enough. I was so much afraid that me just get dramatic. And me say, oh, I don't know who me be. Alright, me go show now. Me did move with one cutlass. Yeah man, serious, me always have my cutlass. I'm happen to you. So me go with my cutlass. And me just turn on the light and me just go outside. And I'm not lying and not making it up. I just went outside with the cutlass and I start to beat it on the wall and I have a strong voice. And I said, listen me, come like you don't understand who me be. Hey, you don't know who me I got and I said, look here. You don't know who me related to. Hey, look here, now I make sure I bring on my people and I say come down the wall out, you know. I'm shaking like a leaf. You know, you're frightened in your sleep. A man come by your window, come and whisper to you in a one ear where you don't know. Yeah, man. So, I go down my cutlass and I beat the place, the wall, and I say, listen to me. Oh, no, know nothing about me, no. No, just don't run put me, no, because if me ever bring in my people coming, I say, come wipe out the wall, and I gonna like it. Yo, I don't know much brother me have, if me ever all carry them up here, so done. Shaking like a leaf. It never happened again from that because them realize I'm no coward. And me all have cutlass and me brave enough to bust door and come out in at 12 o'clock in the night come say, yo, I wanna ramp with So a true matter man for real and never forget is one of the most outstanding story I remember. Alright, so taking you to another story. Living on my own, it was rough. So for those 4 months that there was no salary, of course, that you're going to be, you're going to be, there are going to be days when you're basically hungry. But I mean, parents are so many miles away. You're just going to go home to your parents to tell them that you're hungry? No, not at all. So we had to juggle. One thing though, I met some real fabulous people, real nice, caring people. At that time, people cared about each other. And those people were so warm and caring and friendly. They were so caring. So mostly farming is what is done in that community. And so what you find is that the parents would send ground produce, plantains and fruits for me daily. Sometimes when you look in the kitchen, oh my God, it was bountiful. Real, a lot of food to keep me. And that was really what kept me to survive most of the time. But there were times when things were really low. And I'm going to tell you how low it is. Most of you might not know chocho, but some of you do. And a lot of persons don't really like chocho. Most times it is cooked in soups, but I love chocho. As a matter of fact, based on my experience, I should even like chocho if I tell you. So what happened now is I remember we didn't have any fridge at the time. So although I said we had the basic necessity is a stove and a bed, and we had the bathroom. I think there was a table that we had there too where we could eat on, but there was no, I'm saying we, right? After another teacher had joined me there. So but initially it was just myself who lived there, and then another teacher came and joined and lived there with me also. So as I was saying, There were very low points. It was very cold. That is a very cold community. So you don't even need a fridge. So when I purchased like butter on the weekend and I put it on the counter, it would just freeze. Coconut oil would freeze. And most things would literally freeze because the place was really cold. So not having electricity wasn't a problem. It was so cold that the food would literally stay fresh. So I remember one time things were so rough. I was like dirt broke that I cooked and I left the food over until the following morning and I decided to fry the food. Masa, I fried chocho. Chocho. No, you know what tastes fried chocho? Because we never eat it either. Fried chocho? No, sir. So, I don't know how to explain how it tastes to you. Because, you know, chocho is like a vegetable, or if it's a fruit and a vegetable that has a lot of water in it. And picture that being cooked and you frying that in the following day. No, sir, it never ready at all. But of course, after a while, I got my salary and it was okay for me to buy about a living room suite. I took it out at 3 months so that I could fix up the place. And, you know, living on my own was a challenge, but I enjoyed it. I love the whole idea of being responsible, being on your own, making decisions for yourself. And I would encourage most young persons to go on your own. Once you're able to manage and you're in a safe zone, go on your own. It teaches you so many things. I learned to be responsible. I learned how to make proper decisions. I learned how important it is to watch your associates and also to know limits and boundaries where persons are concerned. So when I came to Ty Dixon for the very first time, we had to turn down this area. Now, as you notice, the wall was recently constructed. So when I came for the very first time and the driver turned the bus along this section of the road, I was looking all the way over into this precipice, and so I jumped out of the vehicle. So that's where I was looking. So I jumped out of the vehicle and left him standing alone. Oh my goodness, I remember this so vividly. But it was so scary coming from that end and then turning, making that sharp turn. The road wasn't even so wide at the time because they widened it as they were making the wall recently.